This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Mike Westfall, our honored patron and Switch Knight.
Milky!
Hi everyone, I'm KC.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, a Nintendo Switch podcast, but the Nintendo Switch community. And the community has been rocking this last couple of weeks. We've been having a lot of fun and getting stuff done.
Yeah, well, when has it ever not been rocking, KC?
Oh, yes, but I love it even more when I get to meet people in person for it.
Yeah, that's right. I believe the Summer of Play event happened over there in New York City. How did it go?
That's right. Very fun, very fun. Down at the Brooklyn Bridge, they just found some little lot. New York doesn't have a lot of really nice places to set up like a tent for something like this, but right there, they found a little lot. They set up this tent. They put up all those Nintendo Switch games and 3DS stuff too, and all that whatnot. And I got to hang out with a bunch of the fellow Switch cats down there. Shell Shock was there. A whole bunch of other, peeps probably listening right now were there. And, it was just a good... We ended up doing one of those things. Brought me back to days where I had to wait online for a long time to try the Switch out. But this was mostly for people who either didn't have a Switch or who wanted to try the one or two not yet released games that they were showing off there.
Okay, I think, regardless of whether you have the Switch or not, I think it's just a really fun event for people to gather with a goal of playing Nintendo games together.
Yeah. So if you see it coming around, it's going to a lot of different cities, so you could definitely check it out and stop by. And they gave out some cool goodies, actually.
Yeah, I was about to say, one of my favorite things about these types of events is the swag. What type of swag did you get, Casey?
Well, the big thing everyone wanted, they had this nice metal water bottle for the My Nintendo, and it was cool. It was red, had the little Mario hat symbol on it, but they did not have that many to go around. You did have to show them your QR code from your My Nintendo account. So if you didn't have one, you had to make a My Nintendo account, show it to them, and you can get one of those after you play 8 games. That was the minimum. You had to try out 8 different games, get different stamps, and then you can get your prizes. But they ran out maybe 10 or 20 people before I actually got in there.
Oh, no.
I was very disappointed at that.
That's unfortunate. I know they've had similar setups before where you would go around playing multiple Nintendo Switch games and they would stamp a piece of paper once you're done. And once you get a certain amount, you would go to a booth and they give you the grand prize swag. In my case, it was the Nintendo Switch pins. Mm-hmm. And in other cases, they even give away Nintendo Switch caps, which are still pretty cool.
They had a lot of that kind of stuff there, actually. They did give us, as a consolation, if we weren't going to come back tomorrow, pretty cool little My Nintendo pin. But there were other prizes for people who didn't have My Nintendo accounts. At the end of it, you could hit a button, and it would randomly pick which of these. They had a whole bunch. They had little stuffed Goombas and these weird arm warmers that had arms logos on it. And
that's cool.
But I'm pretty sure the majority of people got the the party pack, it's called, because it randomly picks which thing you get, and the party pack is a stack of stickers basically, and some water tattoos, which obviously they can't get everyone an awesome prize, but I was very disappointed that not only did I just miss that water bottle, but then I got some stickers. I got the party pack with some Splatoon tattoos. And a lot of Ever Oasis stickers that I did like, but I wanted something.
It's funny that they call those things party packs. It's
makes it sound bigger and awesomer than it is.
Maybe a pity party pack.
kind of whatever. But I did get to play. We did a bunch of games obviously I'd seen before. Played a few 3DS games that I hadn't gotten to touch yet, but I did get to play Pokken Tournament. I always say Pokken. I don't know.
Pokken Tournament. What'd you think, Casey? Actually getting to feel that game firsthand.
I'm gonna need some time to practice with it because I have no idea what I was doing.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Well,
It's not super straightforward. Like a 2D fighter, it's pretty clear. Like, all right, you jump and, you have your punch button, but everything's so contextual. Like, are you in the what do they call that? The runaround mode,
the
right?
Field mode.
Yeah, field mode, or are you in the 2D
Dual
fighter
mode.
type mode?
It's field mode and yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good point, actually. You definitely have to be more aware of your position in a 3D plane, and some people are just not used to that type of fighter.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's definitely not the kind of game I feel like I can easily grasp in a 5-minute little practicing session. I did feel bad because I got over there and they put me on it, and the other person who was playing on it was literally a 3-year-old child. And I know this because as I'm playing, and I'm not trying to beat up the child's character, I'm just trying to practice the controls. But the mother just kept coming over there being like, please, he's only 3 years old. Don't hurt him. He's only 3 years old. Like, I'm not looking to crush this kid. But sometimes the buttons do what I don't know what they're going to do. When they start, Charizard blows up half the screen, and I don't know. I didn't want to hurt the kid.
But still, you were there on a mission. They had to understand a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I know. And the kid didn't want to let go of it. He just kept, like, the mother was trying to get him away. She was, like, obvious, like, all right, the adults want to play each other now, right? And she was trying to drag him away, but he wouldn't let go of the controller. So I eventually had no choice but to eventually beat up this 3-year-old in the game because I really couldn't do anything. He was, like, engaging me after a while, and I'm just like, I don't know how not to hit him. I don't know what these buttons do.
Oh, Casey the Kid Crusher.
I didn't need to.
Well, how do you feel that experience maybe altered your impression of the game?
I just think, I mean, I like it. I liked what the moves do. I did eventually get to play Shell Shock. I'll say that. He did show up eventually, and then the kid finally left, and I got to play with him a little bit. And he showed me what some, like, the real moves can do there. I got to see some actual, like, knowledgeable play of it, thanks to him. And no, it was definitely pretty cool. I was playing as Chandelure. And,
okay.
Yeah, and
Chandelure is definitely more of a zoning keep away character, so it definitely takes some time to get into that mindset.
Yeah, and now I was the 3-year-old because I was telling Shell Shock, "Don't kill me! I've never played this before. My only experience is beating up that 3-year-old."
and now you. Or the 3-year-old Casey.
And so he had pity on me, and he just, like, he let me practice with the controls, and we occasionally engaged. And yeah, no, I can see it. It's going to take a little bit more familiarization with what the buttons do for each character and what their attacks are, because it's not as easy to decipher as a typical 2D fighter.
Right. It does have the simplicity of being kind of like Smash, where it's each button is a move, each direction is a different move, but there's no crazy inputs required, like a crazy sequence of inputs. But yeah, you definitely need to know what each combination of move is before you can really fully grasp the character.
And that's going to be different for every single character. So I do think learning, like playing with the same character more than once will pay off in this game. But I'm excited. It looks fun. I want to master that system with the little support characters. I thought it looked amazing.
Doesn't it just look great?
It is, especially like the finisher attacks and all that stuff. It was just gorgeous on there, and I'm really looking forward to it. In fact, I'll jump the gun on one piece of news, though. I was so excited to hear today that a demo for this game is coming out, possibly by the time this posts.
Yes, I believe it's 9 p.m. Pacific time, so midnight your time, Casey.
Yeah. All right, so I will be downloading that after we record, because
this is literally after this episode records.
I am very hungry to try more of this game out and kind of like, just get more of a feel for it, because I've been looking for this kind of game, like a fighting game, to come out. And, ARMS is there, but I'm not devoted to that yet. I've not decided to become a master at ARMS, so to speak.
Master at ARMS.
Right.
Well, so that was actually what my last question was going to be. how do you feel about Pokken Tournament compared to your impressions of ARMS, or how you felt at ARMS when you were first trying it out?
I feel that there's more variety in that. Like, with ARMS, you know, even though the characters all have their own unique abilities...
Quirks.
Yeah, and quirks, they really function fairly similarly in the field, right? You really don't have a crazy change of strategy, even if you're playing one of the weirder characters, right? Like, if you're doing Bark and Bite... you're still doing the same thing, you're just augmented with a little bit. These characters feel like they play extremely differently, and they, you know, the matchups just... I'm very intrigued by that matchup-based gameplay, whereas you really have to not only play to your own strengths, but play around your opponent's strengths and target their weaknesses.
Right, and... even speaking about that matchup situation you mentioned, the Switch version includes a 3 versus 3 mode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you're essentially picking a team of 3 Pokemon going up against opponents' 3 Pokemon. That has a few switching similarities to the original game now.
And, you know, just thematically, you know...
it's Pokemon.
That's how we know each other. We are ancient Pokemon fans. Obviously, the fighting game starring the Pokemon, if it was even just half competent, would be interesting. The fact that it's so, like, over the top, amazing looking, I'm gonna get into it.
Right, and that's the thing. I'm a pretty big fan of 3D style fighting games. Like, I'm silly. I played the Dragon Ball Budokai series back in the day. I played Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm on the PS4. All of those games were fun and had quite a bit of spectacle to them. But Pokken Tournament has the 3D elements, has the fun, has the spectacle, but also has the depth that I'm looking for in a real fighting game.
Yeah. Now, I have been warned, it is a higher skill ceiling than other games. Like, ARMS, I feel like, has a lower skill floor. Like, it's easier to be competent in ARMS, which I think is one of its greatest strengths. But I feel that Pokken Tournament has a higher skill ceiling, meaning you're more likely to encounter players that can just wreck you if you're not on that level.
That's mostly true. Okay. But it depends on the positioning and character combinations that you get. But yeah, it's not a situation where you're completely gonna be dominated if you don't know anything.
Okay.
But there is a lot of information to keep in mind when you're playing a game that newbies don't necessarily have.
Speaking of ARMS and battle and skill ceilings, we have a few people who are at the skill ceiling of our community in ARMS. Actually, over the weekend, we've discovered we had our ARMS Switch Cup, and I would like to announce our 2 winners of that Switch Cup. We had at the end about 20-25 people and whittled it down. I said it was a double elimination, but at the end, the finals, Decoy DW was our grand champion, followed by Sergio, who was the runner-up and put up an amazing fight. He came up through the Losers Cup, you know, and was able to resurge right there and fight Decoy for the championship.
Yes,
but I guess Decoy went undefeated, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, wow, Decoy, you are a killer ARMS player. I'm really impressed. And Sergio, the fact that you were able to rise up to the finals from the losers bracket is super impressive.
He did only drop into it near the end, though. I do think he made it most of the way without losing. I think he got at least halfway without losing, but yeah, he was able to hang on there and get his shot at the glory.
Right. But regardless, congratulations so much, you guys. Decoy, you deserve the victory. And if I see you on the chat room, I'm going to personally congratulate you. Yes. Good job, you guys.
And they each got a pick of one of the prizes provided by HDE. I believe Decoy is taking the backpack similar to the one that I got. And Sergio is going for the the Switch case like I got too. So
awesome. Yeah, so they're replicating what you got, Casey.
Yeah, they're going for it there. But no, thanks everybody who participated. We actually got a lot of new faces who joined the community because of this cup, and I'm glad that you guys took to the place and hung around after the tournament and just, became one of the gang.
Yeah. Welcome aboard, guys. I'm so glad that these tournaments are bringing in community members and turning them into regulars. I love this.
Yeah.
But speaking of Switch Cups, we're going to keep the tournaments going, Casey. I have an idea for another Switch Cup coming up very soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any hints at what's going on yet?
Oh no, it's pretty blatant out there. A few days ago, I put out a poll asking what game you guys want to compete in as a one-off single-day tournament, kind of like what we did for ARMS. And while this is not the Splatoon 2 major tournament that we're going to hold later on, the votes have come in, and it looks like we're going to host a Puyo Puyo Tetris tournament.
That was the very first game we ever contemplated doing a tournament of.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I think it's kind of perfect. Yes. So the schedule so far, it looks like we don't want to interfere with future Splatfests. So we're looking at around either September the 8th or September 15th. I'm going to put up a poll on the Facebook group asking which of those 2 days that you guys would be interested in be able to compete in, and the one with the most votes will clinch the day.
Very cool, very cool. And we still have a few more of those prizes hanging around from HDE, so I guess we'll give out a couple of those. I think we currently still have the grip and a couple of covers for the Joy-Cons.
Yeah, we have a bunch of other goodies that we're giving away,
true.
So it's gonna be
cool.
It's gonna be great. Honestly, these are really pretty non-committal tournaments. You guys can show up and have fun, and there's really no investment on your side other than the time it takes to compete. So there's no harm in joining.
Yeah, everyone seems to have a good time. And actually, you guys, you've been pretty busy. You and Amelie have been with actually sending stuff out, not only to the people who have been winning some of these contests, but just some of our backers, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So we sent that message to all of our current patrons, and that means that we will be sending you guys some stuff pretty quickly. We were able to finally square off all of the financial stuff that goes behind the scenes for Patreon, and we're getting some merch out to you guys. Finally, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
So if you haven't checked in a while, we do suggest anyone who is a Patreon backer, please visit the site. And if you haven't backed us before, that's patreon.com/theswitchcast. And check your messages. We need addresses from some people that we haven't gotten them from yet. And that's what obviously we need your address to send you your stuff. So check the site and you'll find a message there asking you for that info.
Yes, exactly.
And also related to Amelie, who's been helping out behind the scenes with a lot of stuff. Interesting enough, she just got a new phone. I think we were talking about it. Everyone was like helping me pick out the one
what
that
did you
she
end up picking, Casey?
I don't remember which one it was.
Great. Wonderful.
I don't know the models. It's in the chat somewhere, but I wouldn't remember the model.
All right.
There's only because I don't follow the Google stuff. I just copied links that like Original Me sent us, and it was him and GI Jello who were kind of helping us pick ones out. But as an interesting, I just thought this was a fun, interesting bonus with the phone that she got. Happens to be that it charges using a USB-C connection.
Oh, fancy.
So now I have basically a backup Switch charger in the house because of her phone. Connects the same way.
How convenient. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well
that's
done.
pretty nice. And so, like, it obviously in the house, I don't need it because I have the dock. But when I go to meet her in the city, I usually am at, like half power because I've been playing on the train and usually on my lunch break. If I meet her, which I usually sometimes meet her at work, I can grab it, I can charge up a little bit while I wait for her to finish up, and then, have a freshly charged Switch for the rest of the day or whatever. So it's just kind of cool that, it's a non-proprietary charger that I can just grab from hopefully more people who get similar chargers in the future.
Yeah, hopefully. Apple. Okay.
That would be nice. Yeah, that would be very nice, yeah.
That would be. Who needs lightning when you have USB-C? Anyway, do you want to talk about what we've been playing so far, Casey?
No, I don't want to talk about anything that I've been playing this week at all.
Whoa, oh, that is ominous.
No.
Let's get there.
No, I'm joking. All right, fine, let's talk about it. I'm just... All right, let's go into the game time. All right, so after last week's teaser, JV, have you or have you not gotten to dive into Sonic Mania this week?
Yes, I have. I love Sonic Mania, Casey. I do. I really do.
Hold on. Way to build up suspense about the... All right, so you loved it. It's all that it's cracked up to be. I mean, like, I've been listening to people tell me how much they are in love with Sonic Mania all week. So I'm guessing that they're not just crazy fanboys.
All right, so Sonic Mania is Sonic. It's not 3D Sonic. It's not Werewolf Abomination Sonic. It's not like Edgelord Gunslinger Sonic. It's not Color Wisp Summoning Sonic.
You know, remember that one.
Yeah. It's just classic, old-school Sonic gaming action. It's essentially a new entry in the original 2D Sonic series, which is honestly a dream come true for a lot of classic Sonic fans out there, Casey.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I absolutely adored some of the Sonic 3D entries in the franchise, like Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Generations, Sonic Colors. I actually really liked those. But I just knew that every single time one of those games were newly released, old school fans would scream out, just release more 2D Sonic. You know that's always like a common complaint when those games came out, Casey.
Yeah, even I hear that as someone who never... I've probably never actually played through a Sonic game in my life. I was... And I know they're great games. I have nothing against him. I'm not like drawing some line in the sand here. It's just it's never been one I've picked up. Sonic Mania was the only one I was possibly going to, but you got it covered for this, so I was like, all right, I'll focus on something else.
All right. Well, yeah, it's totally fair, and it is a well-known quote-unquote complaint within past games. But now, KC, Sega delivered, and they delivered so well.
So, how far are you in it right now?
It's not a short game, but it's not incredibly long, too. So while the whole game is a brand new experience, kind of, each stage has you essentially revisiting classic Sonic levels, like the Green Hill Zone or Chemical Plants.
Okay.
However, some of those levels were actually redesigned versions with interesting new mechanics added to break up the classic gameplay.
Okay.
Yeah, so you get 12, I believe it's 12 zones, and two different stages between each zone, and about, I believe, 8 of those zones are remixed in its own unique way.
Now, I really think we should explain, because you know what? You gotta remember, in a mostly Nintendo podcast, Sonic might not be super familiar to a lot of our listeners, so why don't you tell them what Sonic gameplay is like? What is it? How is he different than the other platformers in the world? What is this blast processing thing I hear about all the time?
Blast processing is nothing. But anyway, yeah, you make a great point. So, if you guys have lived under the rock for like 700 years, Sonic is a blue hedgehog with red shoes. Anyway, you control Sonic, and in this game you also control Tails and Knuckles, and you're essentially moving from left to right, running through a platforming course with quite high speed. You just run, and then after a certain time you gain momentum to run really fast. You can hold down and then charge up a spin, and then let go to kind of fling Sonic into in a little circle to dash through different obstacles. And you can do spin attacks when you jump and you spin and hit people. That is essentially how Sonic attacks enemies.
Okay, so he's not just a head stomper.
Right, he's not a head stomper. You're essentially running through, spinning to kill enemies while you're still trying to keep your speed going and platforming through these maze levels.
Okay. Now, does that mean that there's not a huge element of, let's say, exploration on a stage? Are you really just trying to get through these stages as fast as possible? Or is there some reasons to stop and smell the roses here and there?
The emphasis of Sonic games have always been about speed.
Okay.
You're always trying to go from left to right, and you know there's an endpoint with each stage that you need to get to.
Okay.
The interesting part is whenever you run through a stage, there's usually different paths you can take. So you can go up one path, and that has different obstacles you can take. Middle path is another set of obstacles, and bottom path is its own set. And you have the ultimate goal of trying to get to the end point, but you run into kind of different bad guys depending on what route you take. And especially in this game, you can play as Sonic, Tails, or Knuckles right from the start. And while they each share the basic set of spin moves, they have their own individual quirk that makes them unique.
Okay.
Yeah,
now,
which is cool.
I know Tails flies. Is that still a viable thing with him here?
Yes, right.
Okay.
So Tails lets you swim and fly. Sonic lets you do a new move called the drop dash, where if you can immediately go into a spin attack right when you land from a jump, so it can really hurt people right there.
Nice.
And Knuckles lets you climb up walls and perform a glide. So they all have a basic set speed and dashes, but they have different physics that they allow for, which gives a bit of replayability in approaching the same levels.
I imagine the different paths also. So if there's 3 different paths, you might be like, okay, first time through, I'm just going to play through Sonic and whatever path I get. And like, all right, now I'm going to play through with Tails. Let's see what's in this down path if I go that way this time.
Right. So I want to clarify, it's not necessarily 3 paths every time.
Okay,
sometimes there might be a high road and a low road. Sometimes it's just a bigger map, so there's like 5 different ways for you to progress. It's not a set 3, but the concept is there. And what I did mention earlier, normally in past Sonic games, it's just run from left to right. But with Sonic Mania, there's a lot of different new mechanics that they added. Kind of like in Chemical Plant, you can normally in past games it's just a water level, and you go underwater and you have a certain time limit to how long you can stay underwater before you die. Mm-hmm. In this, you can actually mix surprise, chemical into the water area, and it changes the physics of the water to make it more buoyant and allows you to bounce around a bit more.
Okay.
So they added twists to the classic maps that make it more than just a complete one-to-one re-release, which is honestly really cool. And there are even bonus stages that you can run through, Casey. Do you remember those 3D tunnel races that you had to go through back in the day?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So they have.
So those are like they have like not the isometric, but that like Mode 7 graphics. Kind of thing.
It's like it's pseudo 3D, kind of like those old F-Zero games.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, and it's really cool. You can run into those mini bonus stages in the middle of a stage, and it's a lot of fun. They're all updated. There's time attack modes, there's competition modes. This game is just packed, Casey.
There are bosses in this game too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
At the end of each zone there's a boss, and you have to figure out the quirk of the boss to beat it. It's the bosses aren't always, the most big and pivotal bosses. The personality of the stage isn't based on the boss, unlike something like Mega Man, where the boss is iconic to that stage.
Right, where Sparkman will have an electric stage around him, of course.
Right. The bosses are cool, but what you're really going in for is the speed platforming, and that's what's fun about it.
Have you gotten to try multiplayer at all?
So I haven't been able to try multiplayer, but it's relatively similar to how past multiplayer experiences were. Okay. You're essentially running as Sonic or another character, and you're racing them through the stage. And it's split screen, so the top half is one player, the bottom half is another, and you're platforming as efficiently as possible to get to the end of the stage.
Oh, that's kind of cool. All right,
Isn't
I thought
that
it might have
cool?
been like what was it one? I remember the one I played once way back in the day was if one player got left behind, whoever was Tails, if he got left behind on the screen, then he just kind of flew to catch up. Like he didn't really matter.
Yeah, that is a co-op mode, and yeah, that's a classic mode in Sonic. I'm referring to the competition mode essentially.
Oh, okay. So there's a competition mode, and then there's
which is honestly really fun. I forgot how fun it can be.
Nice. Now, can you interact with the other player at all then during competition mode, or is it just like a race and you're eliminating the same enemies on the stage?
I don't think I have ever tried directly interacting with the enemy, but I don't think you can.
Okay, I think that makes sense.
You can interact with the environment, and it is a shared environment, but there's nothing necessarily you can do to directly hinder the opponent, as far as I can tell.
Okay, no, that makes sense at all. But now that's really cool, just to have two people playing that stage and experiencing the same kind of fun and getting through it together. And all right, you got there first. Let's go fight this boss or whatever.
Yeah. So, Casey, there are so many awesome touches to this game too.
Oh yeah. Huh?
Yeah, like the music. It's reminiscent to the classic Sonic stages, and I just love it. And my favorite part about this whole game, and it's not even a gameplay element, there's a mode, or there's a setting that you can toggle that lets you replicate the scan lines of a classic CRT TV.
Oh, wow.
Yes. It has those lines. You can set it to soft or hard or off, and it just makes it look like a classic CRT TV, and it really replicates that Genesis feel.
Wow, that's crazy. I love it. I mean, you know me, I dig nostalgic, imagery.
I didn't expect to care about that feature so much, but it really triggered a nostalgic feeling, and it's such a simple little feature, but I loved it. Yeah, this is honestly reminiscent of those Mega Man 9 and Mega Man 10 games on the Wii back in the day. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah, that was my first comparison. It was just like, we just want the classic game design, and then make it look good. You don't have to go crazy with it. Just make it look fast, good, and fun.
Yeah, this game is definitely fun. Obviously, if you're not a Sonic fan and you didn't like the Sonic games back then this is not for you. But for $20, this is well worth it, I think.
No, that's
Casey.
really good sounding for $20. I mean, you're basically getting, I would call it Virtual Console Plus. Because it's a game that it's basically a Virtual Console game, except it's a new game that just didn't exist before.
Yes, it's classic stages, but they're not exactly the same as they were. It's not formatted the same. It just has the same feel to it, and it's a nostalgia trip. And that's definitely what they're going for.
I mean, and I've got the impression that you don't need to even be nostalgic for Sonic to enjoy this. I think this is a great chance for people who maybe just didn't grow up with a Genesis. You were on the Nintendo side of the console wars, to finally bridge the gap and see what the other side was living. Why were they fighting for Sonic so hard back then? You can kind of get that feeling in this and see what the other half was like living.
That's actually a great point. I did not even think about that. If you've never played Sonic before, this is a really great way to relive just what people loved about the franchise back then.
Bring us together. It's finally linking these communities, these people. Yeah.
Classic Sonic games on a Nintendo home console. It's perfect.
Yes, sir. Now, actually, this reminded me, there was a question that we didn't read last week, but it was something relevant to this, and I wanted to bring it up. One of the community members asked us if we think that with the success, or at least the popularity of Sonic Mania, do you think Sega can and should make more games in this vein?
Yes, I think they should. Maybe they don't necessarily have to play up on the nostalgia factor as much, but if they can consistently pump out games in this engine with this level of well-crafted level design, and keep charging $20 for it, I think they can keep pumping these out as much as people demand.
Yeah. I think that I agree that just based on the pure popularity, that they will get the message, and please, I hope they do, that this is, maybe it's an ego thing. Maybe you need to feel like, some people need to feel like they're making something truly new and spectacular and innovative, when, sometimes you don't need to mess with the recipe too much. I mean, how many, kind of going back to the Mega Man thing, how many Mega Man games did they make that were all the same formula? Just, all right, here's more stages of Mega Man. I mean, I think they got up to 10.
Well, it was Mega Man 8 was the stop of the classic Mega Mans. Then they recreated it with Mega Man 9 and 10.
Yeah, that's it. Right. So I'm hoping too. All right. I'm glad to hear that it lived up to all the hype though for you.
Oh yeah, I got the collector's edition. I was I was optimistic, but still a little apprehensive.
Okay.
I'm just glad it turned out great.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I actually too, I was playing something that would also probably be a little more nostalgic to you than to me, because I was playing Fate Extella, the Umbral Star this week, which is a Warriors type game set in the Type Moon universe. And if anyone's not familiar, that is an anime series. Has been 10 different types of games in the past, maybe like 20 different types of games.
Yeah.
But this is a series that you were pretty fond of, actually, at least in terms of the anime.
Right, so you said Fate Extella. I am a big fan of the Fate Zero anime and the Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works anime. Like, when I watched those, I was really enamored by the world and the setting that it built up, and from there I started researching on the history of this franchise, and I really got into one of those Wikipedia streams where I just kept digging deeper and deeper into the lore of that world, and it's something that I'm enamored by.
It is a pretty massive world of lore, and I was also I watched was it
Fate
Type
Zero?
Fate Zero, right. That was the one I watched, which was kind of like the prequel of the main series, I believe.
Yeah.
But I love the concept, and if anyone's not familiar, the core concept of this whole series, at least at the start of it, was that it's almost like a reality show, in my opinion, or like a Survivor type thing, where it's like there are 8 people who get servants. 7? Okay, yes. So 7 people who get servants that are basically reincarnations or just like summoned embodiments of heroic or historic figures. So one person will have Alexander the Great fighting for him in this competition. Another will have like Gilgamesh, and we have King Arthur, who is the main character, I guess you could say, of one of the several of those series. And they all have these different classes. One's the saber class. There's assassin classes. And anyway, they fight. And basically the last one to survive the competition gets the Dragon Balls and can make a wish, basically. they get the Holy Grail, which grants them a wish. If I give a sufficient truncated explanation.
Yes, and that's a good way to explain it without giving anything spoilery away. And honestly, like the anime series, there's quite a bit more to it than just that. The interpersonal interactions are what really make it interesting.
It's a lot about that's why I kind of relate it to a reality show, because it's mostly about, it's not like the fights happen, and they're awesome fights, but a lot of the story is about who's making alliances with who's stabbing who in the back, what's this person's strategy to win? Am I just going to stay out of this whole fight and just, go for something else? Right.
And what makes it interesting. Yeah, and what makes it interesting in the show is that that everyone's going to have to go against each other at some point. There's only one winner of this competition situation. So
So if you like even 2 characters, one of them has to lose, possibly die, because there can only be one winner.
Right, and that's always a fascinating setup. And I just not to belabor this point even further, what really inspired me to get into this franchise was just the sheer quantity and creativity that they go in portraying historic and mythological figures of the past.
I loved Alexander the Great. Like, he was a great character. The way they characterized him really, like, it just felt fun and good, and even what they did with King Arthur was kind of cool, and you know, I liked it. Now, I'll just state that I actually did not end up liking how the series I watched ended, but it was okay. But I still love the concept. Now, this game kind of does nothing with that setting that I liked.
Yeah, that's the thing about the situation. I was a big fan of the anime and the two animes that came out, and those really focused on that setup. All of the other Fate games or Fate whatever shows,
we'll just say the
manga,
Type Moon.
novels,
The Type Moon is, I think, the greater name of the franchise.
The greater franchise doesn't necessarily explore that concept entirely, which is why I derived most of my enjoyment from reading about it as opposed to experiencing it myself. And I was apprehensive about whether Fate Extella would be any good because of it.
So, I'll just say, it throws everything that I just explained to you that made me interested in the anime out, because it has nothing to do with the actual Holy Grail Wars, right? It's not about the 7 competitors and this battle trying to get your wish. It takes place after one of these was over, and your character is apparently the winner of the most recent one of those. And you're kind of a generic, you know, you pick boy or girl, and you're kind of a fairly generic character. And apparently your servant is now with you on the moon for some reason.
What?
You live in a castle on the moon created by a digital entity who, and I don't know if this is spoilers for the series in general or just some weird stuff they made up for this game, but apparently, according to this game, and this is like stuff right off the top of the game, so I don't know if it qualifies, but all the servants that I've always been like, oh, there's some mysticism, or these the people that were summoned, and you're actually fighting alongside these great historic characters, they're all digital creations of some crazy supercomputer that lives on the moon, and it's the machine that they just call the Holy Ark or the Holy Grail in order to, and it's the machine that grants wishes, and now it has some weird malfunction, and there's another person on the planet, on the moon, who's taking over territory that's supposed to be yours because you're the winner and you reign over the moon, and now you have to fight digital robots to reclaim your territory.
Okay, I can confirm that that's not in the original at all.
Oh my god, it's like, it has nothing to do with the things that I was intrigued by, that I loved this series for.
Okay, that's weird.
And they even did, like, your main character, like the cover character, right, is, you know, I mean, everyone knows the Saber that I mentioned, who is...
Right. She's the iconic character of the franchise.
Right. Now,
she's like Pikachu.
Right. Yeah, she's the Pikachu. But in the anime that I've watched, she was King Arthur, which was a cool... You know, I think that's a cool subversion of that she was actually a woman, they're saying in history, who had a
right, but no one cared.
Yeah,
so
right.
The story's manipulated or were telephoned.
Well, I guess they didn't want to give up on that character being on the cover, even though it's not. This is not that Saber. Even though it's the same exact character model, this is not King Arthur Saber. You have Nero, Emperor of Rome Nero, who is this Saber, who just happens to look identical to that one because people want Pikachu.
Yeah,
I guess. So that also is kind of weird. That's a weird bait and switch. I don't know. Maybe you can confirm this makes sense in the canon somehow.
I mean, there is a Nero, but it's not. You know, it's definitely not one of the mainline stuff. It's
okay. And so anyway, you fight. Let me get to the actual gameplay here. Okay, so you're fighting and you're taking over, and they do a couple of interesting little things with the gameplay. Again, it's like Warriors. The maps are actually decently small in that they are all right, so like, you know when you're playing Zelda Warriors, right?
Right.
There's a big map.
Warriors.
Yeah, right. And there's this big map, and it all kind of like connects to everything, and like, oh, I'm in the fields, it makes sense, this leads to this graveyard, and there's the castle up there, and I have to walk up this big steps to it, and it all kind of flows and makes sense. It feels like a real place. In this game, every location is just broken up in almost like Monster Hunter style segments. Here's Sector 5, and it's like a square with some, maybe a feature, maybe not many features. And then it has like 3 or 4 exit points that lead to other sections, but they don't really connect. It's just like you go to the exit and you kind of like warp over to another zone. So it doesn't feel like you're
It doesn't
anywhere.
feel like it's all connected.
Right. And it's not, it's just like there's just 6 rooms and you hit little teleport spots to go to different rooms, and that's where you fight people. So it doesn't really come together. It doesn't feel like I'm fighting for any place unique. I just feel like I have 6 arenas, and each one has a different value of keys. You have to beat up a bunch of regular minions, and then bigger minions show up. And then when you beat up enough of the bigger minions, you claim that zone, and you fill up some number of keys that it's worth. And when you get enough keys, you unlock a boss that you fight to win the stage. All the minions, I mean, there's a lot of them. They really try to like anime up the level. Like there's just so many of them. It just floods the screen sometimes. And I guess it makes you feel kind of cool, but it's also just like makes the screen feel very cluttered. And they're all pretty generic looking. Like they're just digital robot people. And even the bigger ones, like the bosses or some of the like the more dangerous things, just look like bigger versions of those guys. So it's not like it's like
So it's like fake diversity, really. It's not really. Yeah. It's not a real new enemy. It's just a blown up version of a generic enemy.
Pretty much, and it makes it a little hard to like because I have to hunt down those bigger ones in order to beat the area, but it's hard to see them because they just blend into the crowd so much. And I don't know, I mean, the bosses, I met one boss so far, and it was like a main anime character with some J-pop thing going on. Like she had a stage and all the robots were like listening and rocking out to her music, and I was like, okay, this is weird, but all right, whatever, I'll go with it. But nothing, it just didn't feel like a Warriors game. It just felt like a room of monsters, and then I go to another room of monsters, and, you have your generals, which are other servants. Some of them I think are from the other games. Like I have Gawain, and I have I think the main servant from the one that takes place after Fate Zero.
Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works.
Yeah, he was the guy with the short hair. He was like red. He wears all red.
Yes, Archer.
Okay, yeah, Archer from that one, even though he's nameless in this one, so I don't know what's up with that. And they also have this weird overtone where your servant, where Nero is always flirting with you,
Really?
Yeah, and
would it flirt with you even if you were a girl?
Well, I did choose him as my character as a girl, and I'm assuming she says the same things if you're a boy, but she's constantly oh, Master can touch my face if she wants to. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm okay with and they give you all the different outfits that are kind of sleazy little outfits to put your servant in, and I'm just like, all right, I see where this game's trying to appeal to here.
Yeah, that's part of why I generally stick with the anime that's been out that's generally kind of portraying the characters in a more respectful light.
The anime actually does a pretty good job of like I said, the way they portrayed the characters, and it does have just everyone kind of feels right. It doesn't have many of those things that make me feel weird about watching anime. It's surprisingly serious with this material and these characters.
Right. There's no really big moments of I guess fan service or
that's the thing. Yeah. Like Saber is constantly crouching over in front of me to give you a clear shot down her dress, and I'm just this is nothing thematically. This feels nothing thematically with what the Fate series was for me. So it's just it's been weird. I'm going to keep playing it for a little while, see if I can get a few more stages in. I just started hitting the main plot line of what's going on here. And I met Archimedes, who is a pretty cool character.
Right. But yeah, that's the thing that I like about the series, even though I haven't really explored much of the franchise outside of the anime. I love how they portray the mythological being, or not even beings, just the people of myth and legend. Like the way they portrayed Nikola Tesla. He's a servant that you can choose in one of the games, and he's like a thunder master, but an engineer, and it's the way they portray these people are so cool.
And I like you said, like, Shakespeare was in one of the anime, and he had a cool power related to what he is, and...
Yeah, he was essentially a dimension warping bard, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I see hints of that, so I do feel like there's a chance with this. Like I said, like, Archimedes is actually there as the maintenance guy for the space computer, which is kind of funny for him, like, and people recognize him as, like, this great inventor, like this Greek genius and mathematician, and it makes sense in that way, in at least in this world. But again, so far, the gameplay is meh, and the story is just kind of weird, and it doesn't feel like it belongs in the Type Moon universe as far as I've seen so far. So,
well, the Type Moon universe used to be a visual novel that focuses more on the romantic, a bit sleazy
that's right.
side
That's
of it.
The word we'll use for it. It did start as we'll call it a romantic visual novel.
Yeah, it depends on your definition of romance, but
right.
Yes, and then they took the characters from that and reworked the franchise to be respectable in a way, and not to knock anyone who's into those style of visual novels.
So maybe all the flirting and fan service is a little bit more paying homage to the true roots of the series, I guess, in that way. So that is a fair analysis of it in that regards.
Yes, right.
But I mean, we'll see as I get more attacks. There's a lot more customization and abilities I got to learn how to hook up and craft. So we'll see how deep it gets and interesting. But right now, as far as a Warriors game concerned, I would still. It's nothing compared to Hyrule Warriors, and I'm still pretty sure that the Fire Emblem Warriors is going to provide more interesting gameplay than this. And it's very chatty. I don't know if you're playing this kind of game, if you're really looking for a lot of story, but there is a lot of talking. And I've been playing it for about 3 hours, and I have fought one major battle, and it is just long story.
Yeah, well, honestly, the big reason why I skipped this game is because I had a feeling it would lean towards that route instead of the elements that I really dug into. And considering Warriors is in the horizon, I felt like I didn't want to double dip on that type of game.
Yeah, I honestly, so far, that's what I'm just like waiting for Fire Emblem Warriors to help me get along with it. But alright, that's my initial impressions of that. We'll see how those change over the week. But I think we should hit the news because there's a lot of it, and we've already talked a lot about these games that we've been playing and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, news rundown. Let's try to be fast with this because there's a lot.
Yeah, let's go. So, apparently, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle has a season pass. And that's a little controversial with people right from the get-go.
Yeah, some people were saying that, maybe you can clarify. Some people are saying that maybe we should be wary regarding Ubisoft's history with this kind of thing. So, I'm not familiar. Did they do something with, like, I don't know, like one of the previous games with season passes that might put people on edge about this?
They're a big AAA title corporation, and people are wary of those games because they've had a bit of a history with rescinding content to put it into season passes or over-promising graphics-wise and under-delivering at launch. They're the people behind Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed, so yeah, those games weren't received as well during the later iterations, and I think people are just wary of this practice. which is fair.
Okay. I mean, and that is true. I mean, considering, and we'll go through all the things that they're going to be giving, at launch, we're going to have the first piece of DLC that is involved with this, which is 8 new steampunk weapons. So it's literally day one DLC that you have to pay for.
Right.
I could see some people, okay, I can see what you're saying. Like, some people can be a little... I don't want to feel like I'm starting the game with already something not available to
missing.
me.
Yeah. In this case, I'm going to give them a bit more benefit of the doubt because this is heavily tied to Nintendo, so I have a feeling Nintendo has their hand on this a little bit more than usual. And the other content that the Season Pass provides are solo challenges, co-op maps, and even story content next year.
All right.
Yeah, which I think with a $20 price tag, again, just like with Zelda, if you really want more of this game, the Season Pass doesn't look like it's the worst deal.
Maybe we should... I think that might be a good Switch topic someday for us to have in regards to DLC, because I think it is something that they have to be very careful, because we are very fond of, actually, and I haven't heard any real negative... I haven't heard many negative opinions regarding the Zelda Season Pass, and maybe it's because most of that content feels like stuff you wouldn't do until you've already beaten the game, so maybe that has something to do with it. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how people react to this, and I'd like to hear what maybe you guys have to think about this and how to do DLC, right?
Yes. We're definitely open to everyone's opinions on how this is going to turn out.
So the next Splatfest was announced, and the new drama for us to take sides and hate each other over. Which superpower do you want more, flight or invisibility?
Yeah, so we actually talked about this a bit earlier, and I'm surprised. We're on the same side with this, Casey.
Yes, but we actually, I did like... We both had very different explanations for it, but I did like your rationale behind why you picked your choice. Yeah,
go ahead and say what yours is and why you chose it, Casey.
All right, well, first off, invisibility. A is just awesome, and B, I'm afraid of heights. Okay, so flying would just not be that practical because I would always be worried that my power would run out and I would die. The worst that happens if my invisibility runs out is, I was caught, in the bank vault. Oh, well. At least I don't fall down, I plummet to my instant death.
Right. And those are pretty fair reasons to not want to get flight. I think that's actually pretty fair.
My other main one was that, you can't use flight secretly. If you use flight, everyone knows you have a superpower now. And people are going to expect you to do things, or you're going to be in the cameras. People are going to know that you're a superhero. Invisibility by its very nature is this power you can keep to yourself. Use your own way. No one judges how you're using your superpower. Whereas flight might, maybe well, you should go out and rescue people with your flight powers. I just want to get to work faster. Leave me alone.
Yeah, exactly. That's a totally valid reason for it.
And you, obviously, you picked the opposite of me, right? Because that's what we do.
Surprisingly, I also chose invisibility, but for a completely different reason. So, in my eyes, I actually would prefer invisibility over flight because, A, there's already technological methods to perform flights in the real world. If you need to fly somewhere, you can take a plane. If in the near future we want some sort of personal method of flight, jetpacks are not that far away. Invisibility is a much tougher problem to tackle on a technological basis. We don't have technology, even in the near future, that would replicate true invisibility. And if there's a technological way for us to fly, we'll just take that, and I'll be invisible the whole time. Yeah,
all right. No, that's good. Money can pay for the ability to fly in today's society, but you cannot experience invisibility for any amount of money or technology. Good. Right. I like that theory. I like that rationale.
Yes, and I like that we have pretty different reasons for it.
Yeah, that's good. I really think I'm going to start doing this very Splatfest. I'm going to make a post on the Facebook group, and I want to hear people's arguments for one or the other choice. So by the time this posts, definitely check that out if you want to share your opinion on this little thing for this Splatfest here.
Yeah, and definitely if you can, it's fun to have mild trash talk or get a little bit competitive about it, but we definitely want to make sure we're not so heated about about these and get in everyone's face and get angry.
It's very easy, people slip into that.
Yeah, we definitely want to keep it fun, lighthearted, and casual, but still competitive in a way.
We also got to see at Gamescom, there was a lot of little reveals there, but we got to see the new map for Splatoon there, Manta Maria, which looks like a pirate ship kind of thing, like it's an old boat.
Yeah, and it's a good setting for it. It has a decent amount of verticality, while still being a wide enough area that lets you really explore and blitz to certain areas.
Yeah, and there was also a new weapon called the Bubble Blower. I kind of saw what this looked like in the video, but I'm not clear on what its specific powers are and stuff like that there.
Yeah, I believe you throw out bubbles and then you hit them with
huge bubbles, not like you're got a little bubble blower, like giant ones that are about, like, I'd say three inklings in width.
Yeah, you let out these big bubbles and then shoot ink to them to explode them, and it's a really big attack. But they're slow moving, and the opponent can hit them back too. So it's one of the interesting ones that could potentially backfire if not used properly.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. We also got a new Joy-Con bundle that they showed off, which has the Splatoon-ish neon-y colors to it of the green and pinkish red there. So if anyone's interested.
On September 8th, there's a new console package that would include Splatoon and those Joy-Cons with an actual Nintendo Switch.
Yes, that's right. Yes, a packaged Switch with those colors there. So you have another choice in addition to the blue and red or the black boring controllers. And I might have gotten this one if this was available at launch. So
it's a very tempting offer.
Shifting over to ARMS, you can announce this one.
Yep. So apparently there's going to be another global test punch? Yes.
Yes. Okay.
This is very interesting. At 8 a.m. Pacific time, Friday, August 25th through Sunday, 27th at 2 p.m., there's going to be another free test punch that's available to people who don't have ARMS yet.
Or if you just want to join in, and because it's a good chance to just play a lot of random people. Even if you do have ARMS, I guess you could play the test punch just to join in with the random community fun.
And included in this new test punch is a new character called Lola Pop.
Yes, she is a candy clown, is the best way to put it. She has a very candy motif. She has like lollipop hair, and she has big baggy clown pants, and her arms are like candy cane kind of material.
Right. She definitely leans toward the candy theme more than the clown theme. So anyone who is has a fear of clowns, I don't think this would trigger that fear all too much. But I can't really speak to everyone, but it's interesting that her quirk is that she has these nunchuck arms and a way to puff herself up to deflect attacks.
I think so. Just from what I was watching, again, I haven't seen any explanation, but it looks like it almost acts as her block, but she can move while she's doing it. So she kind of does like Monkey D. Luffy's balloon ability, where she puffs herself up into like a giant balloon shape, and I think it acts almost like a block that you can do while moving, or maybe it just allows her to absorb damage more easily and be unflinching for short periods of time.
Right, and it does look like she has very strong blocks and a bit of extra mobility to boot, so it's an interesting take on an ARMS character.
Oh, I like her. I like this kind of... I mean, I'm a fan of jesters and clowns of all type like that. And as saccharine, no pun intended, as this her motif is, I dig this style, and I would actually probably play as her more commonly.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel like this is up your alley, and you should check it out. Plus, it also includes 3 more arms in the update for her, so it's gonna shake things up a bit.
Yep. All right, let's move down. We have, as I mentioned before, we have the Pokken Tournament. As I mentioned before, we have the Pokken Tournament demo that'll be out by the time you are listening to this, and they also showed off or someone got their hands on the new Pokken controller, and apparently it is the same as the Wii U controller, just with a new logo, basically.
Yep. Surprise! It's exactly the same as the old one.
I might get this, though. I mean, if they have a bundle where it's packaged with the game, I'm thinking I wouldn't mind having this for this game.
Honestly, this controller is great, even for other fighting games. The buttons are so responsive, and the inputs are so simplistic. You don't have to worry about extraneous button inputs, and it's just so clean.
Yeah, the only thing that's missing is, like, it doesn't have, like, the camera, the screenshot button that the regular controllers have, but, that's a small, thing to give up. And, like I said, I've held off on buying a Pro controller, and I think this might be a good time to finally get something with, get something special.
Well, this does not have joysticks, so that's not something
that's true. Okay, that's
you're really concerned about if you're playing fighting games.
That's true. All right. Yeah, you do. Yeah. Joysticks in fighting games just are asking for you to make more mistakes.
Right. Now, Rocket League is apparently getting free Nintendo-themed cars when it comes out on the Switch. I think it's really cool because this is a great way to add some unique features to the Switch without changing the balance of the game.
Yeah, it's adding just some cool fanfare, like really saying to the Nintendo community, hey, welcome to Rocket League. Here's a way to kind of let your, Switch flag fly while you're playing and show off to people. Because I with the cross-platform play, people will know, oh, all right, I'm seeing these Switch players with the Mario, Luigi, and I believe a Samus.
Yeah, it's the Samus's gunship, which looks so slick, Casey.
It does look pretty slick, yes.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that.
Very cool.
What I'm also excited about is Fire Emblem Warriors. We were finally getting a release window, or at least even a release date. It looks like Fire Emblem Warriors is releasing on October 20th.
At least for Europe.
Yes.
It could be a little bit off for us, but they are specifically even getting a limited edition collector's version of the game, which I do imagine will be announced for the West. For North America in time as well.
Are you going to get that, Casey?
Probably not. I mean, as cool as it is, and it does have some cool character cards, CD soundtrack, which is 3 CDs long, the game, and it looks like it just has a nice fancy box with it. I am not a collector's edition guy for most games. I think Final Fantasy XIV is the last game I felt was massive enough and would be as all-consuming enough that it would warrant me having like a special, trinkets and collector's edition for. I really can't afford to buy that for every game that I'm pretty fond of.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
But that's just me.
Yeah. I can only really afford to buy the collector's versions of like some very, very important games.
Specific games, yeah, that's fair.
Yes, I did like though they had the trailer for this game. Where they announced the date, and there was just one little thing I knew it was going to come up at some point in there, but I was just glad to see they actually said in there they had a line with where they had Ryoma speaking with Xander from the Hoshido talking to the North side there, the mortal enemies from the Game Boy games, but they did that thing I always love where they're like, you know what? There'll be plenty of time for us to kill each other. We need to team up and fight these guys. And I just wanted to see that so bad. Like the two rival sides come together to fight the greater evil.
It's such a trope, but it's such a satisfying trope. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you and I have been on the opposite sides of that for a while. So it's like, always one side's losses is the other side's victory. And in this, it's, you can get that little cheap thrill of it being like, all right, we're both on the same team.
Yeah, exactly.
And we can, I like that we'll have another day to cross swords.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it too. I like it, and I'm excited even further. Speaking of excited, I'm actually really excited about the Mario Odyssey gameplay showcases that they had at Gamescom this Wednesday. It was quite entertaining to see more details about the game coming from the producer of the game itself.
Yes, I was watching some of this, and they just showed off a couple more worlds and a little more gameplay, and I mean, just every world is so different, and I like that it all feels like they have completely new mechanics and a great new aesthetic, not just for Mario himself, but the whole world. And I mean, that was really all we could ask for. It just looks like every stage of this game is going to be a whole other experience, which is really cool.
Right. You know, it's just Mario. They're really good at diverse experiences.
I was watching the scene where he's like in a chef world where the lava, like, you know, every stage has hot lava, but in this one it was like candy fountains and stuff like that you couldn't touch. And he had like a chef outside. He had a chef outfit on, and yeah. Anyway,
it's really great. It's just. You know, a fun and whimsical experience.
Also leaked at Gamescom, some people who were playing Sonic Forces noticed that there was a tag team mode without really much explanation of how that would work, but it looks like you're going to be able to team up with, like, you know, or jump between classic and new Sonic for some mode where you have to jump between the two guys.
Right. I wonder how that's going to play out, because if Sonic Generations is any indication, those two play quite differently, and I want to see how either of those work. And yes, I found out that apparently you can now purchase Nintendo Switch games with PayPal, which is cool.
Yeah, it's just another cool option. I mean, not everybody has credit cards or has that set up, and some people, I know a decent number of people who do a lot of their payments through PayPal. And so one more option to get on the eShop if you didn't like having to buy cards from GameStop all the time.
Yeah, nothing to complain about too much.
Yeah, and I just thought it was interesting and worth noting. Chucklefish announced they don't want to say any date for Stardew Valley yet because they don't want to announce a date that they can't keep because of some unforeseen circumstance, kind of relating to, it sounds like, their situation right now with Pocket Rumble, which, you know, several months...
What game is that?
It's really funny, though. I only brought this up because last night I had a dream/premonition, and I only bring this up so that if it does come true, this could be like a ooey moment, that I had a premonition that it's coming out next week.
Okay,
next Thursday.
Wow.
I really did have some dream where, like, I read a post that it was coming out next Thursday, August 31st. And if it doesn't, forget I ever said this, but if it comes out, freaky.
Yeah. Okay. KC. That's a stretch, but we'll see if it actually comes true. It probably won't.
Down the pipe, you were really excited to tell me about this first one.
Yeah, so apparently, during a Gamescom panel, the Final Fantasy 15 developers heavily hinted at potentially a Nintendo Switch release of Final Fantasy 15.
Very awesome. That is that just, you know, whether you like it or not, or if you don't like this, you know, the newer generation of Final Fantasies, just the fact that Square is coming over and bringing their flagship series to Switch is huge news, just from people looking at third-party support for the system even.
Right, exactly. I love Final Fantasy 15. I would play it again on the Switch in a heartbeat, but even if I wasn't a big fan of the game, I would still be very excited for the fact that something this big is coming to the Switch.
I was not a fan of, in general, the, you know, modern day settings that Final Fantasy have taken recently, like Final Fantasy 13 with the, you know, the super techno future world that but I really was surprised that 15 dealt with that merger of doing this kind of like modern setting with the magic better than I had anticipated, and I guess it just had more heart than I felt the others had, and I was surprisingly taken into it. It's totally not my kind of setting that I've enjoyed, but they more than made up for it with not just presentation, but actual development, and just the characters and the world itself. The way it was built was amazing.
Yeah, when it comes to Final Fantasy 15, I actually kind of liked that they didn't really play up the setting all that much. Unlike in something like Final Fantasy 13. There's a hotel, and it's just a hotel. There's restaurants, there's gas stations. It felt like it's just a world that people lived in that just so happened to have all these fantastical creatures and magic going on in the background.
That's a good way to put it. It did feel like relatable. Like when you're out driving on a road, it felt like a road that could exist, 5 miles outside of my city. It felt like a believable world that I wouldn't mind living in.
Right, exactly. And it just so happened to also have, big fantastical creatures and magic in the universe, but it wasn't even something that people necessarily made a big deal about unless it's part of the story.
Yeah, they didn't overdo it. They didn't.
Yes.
I mean, like they overdid the presentation, which is what you expect, which was awesome. But yeah, they didn't. It didn't get tiresome.
Right. When it came to the setting, it was more subtle than Final Fantasy 13, which just hits you in the head with all basically those pronouns.
Everything is powered by either Esper crystals or Guardian Force Magicite, blah blah blah. Every you probably couldn't cook a burger in Final Fantasy 13's world without some sort of fairy magic.
Right, Falces, Lacies, your C, all that, AC, so much ridiculousness in that game. And that's part of what bogged it down, I felt. And Final Fantasy 15 is something that circumvented that a bit, and I'm excited to see that on the Switch.
We'll definitely have a chance to talk more as that comes in closer.
Yes, exactly.
Also coming down the pipe, we got something called The Takeover, which looks like a Fatal Fury-inspired game. It's a, brawler with 3D models. Looks pretty good. We got Bomber Crew. Bomber Crew, which is coming sometime after October 19th when it releases on, other systems and Steam and stuff. This is actually kind of a cool concept. It's a mix of, what was that game? Kind of like Faster Than Light or FTL.
FTL.
Yeah, but you're controlling a bomber jet or a bomber plane, like World War II style, and you not only have to manage the crew and things like damage, but you have to get behind, turrets and shoot down, fighters and drop your payload of bombs when you get over the target. Kind of a cool concept. I like the setting, and I like that take on this weird management and picking your team. And I could see if it had a nice multiplayer feature where it's I need someone to get on the rear gun and do this, and it's quick.
Kind of like Artemis or Star Trek Bridge Crew.
Yeah, kind of like that. That would be pretty cool too. But this looks like a fun little one player thing.
Yeah.
We got a game called Shu, SHU, coming in the fall, which is a cool little hand-drawn platformer. Looks pretty fast and fun with a cool cartoon kind of world with nice drawings. That's really all I could say about that so far.
Yeah.
Let's Sing. In case you're looking for a karaoke option for your Switch, Let's Sing 2018 is actually coming possibly by the holiday season. Put that on your Christmas lists, everybody?
I guess so. And Zordix, which is releasing Aquamoto Racing Utopia and Snowmoto Racing Freedom, which are snow and water jet skiing racing games. So it kind of reminds me of Wave Race back in the day. So that's coming out soon.
So the new releases, we'll just run down the list. We got Rocket Fist came out, Minecraft Story Mode, the Neo Geo Magician Lord, Sky Ride, the Jackbox Party Pack, and Party Pack 2. In case you want more of those you don't know Jack type games, which are pretty popular. I might pick one of those up, actually. Thimbleweed Park, point-and-click adventure game I've talked about. And Pixel Lines, that's Piczle. This is Pixel Lines DX, because this is one of those games that's pretty popular on mobile phones now. It's a puzzle game where you have to draw lines between things while filling up every space of your screen. Next week, we have Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle coming out. That's the 29th. So that's already here. What do you know?
What? It's all... Wow, okay. That caught me by surprise because I totally forgot it was coming out next week.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was coming out September 29th, but wow, I'm getting that.
All right. There we go. Actually, let me double check. Now that you got me double...
No, you're right. I am right.
Okay. Yeah, I know it snuck up on us. We really, it's like every month there's a big title, and it's like you barely are settled into Splatoon, or you're barely settled into ARMS, and then the next big title comes.
Yeah. So yeah, the Nintendo Switch has games, that's for sure.
Yeah. Also, on the 29th, if you're looking for something smaller to get into, Shantae, Pirate Queen's Quest is coming out that same day. It's a $10 title. And actually, this is fun because you're not playing as Shantae in this one. You get to play as Risky, which is the Pirate Queen herself. And she basically takes the same kind of platforming gameplay, but she has her own cool powers and ability to jump around stages using her anchor as like a grappling hook, all sorts of cool things. So, like, she's a pretty fun character to play as.
Right.
League of Evil coming out next week, which is another popular mobile game platformer. Redout and Azure Striker Gunvolt Striker Pack is also coming out the 31st.
Nice. Yes, I'm excited for that. I'm actually big fan of the Azure Striker Gunvolt series. They've been doing
awesome.
Side-scrolling games well.
Yes. All right, so let's shift over and close this up with the community pulse.
All right, let's go for it.
JB, why don't you kick us off with something here for the community pulse?
All right, let's start with Peter J. Ortiz, or Shellshock from the Discord chat, with Fire Emblem Warriors releasing on October 20th in Europe, as well as Skyrim on Switch, rumored to be releasing on October 23rd. Do you think both of those games will be overshadowed by Super Mario Odyssey? Or do you think they'll both do well regardless? Now, let's all keep in mind, Super Mario Odyssey comes out on October 27th, so that's going to be a very narrow release schedule for those games. It's totally valid to think that there may be a bit of a cannibalization between them, though I feel like since all three of them are in such differing genres, Nintendo seems to be willing to overlap the release dates for those. I feel like Nintendo fans are all, regardless, going to pick up Super Mario Odyssey, but by releasing Fire Emblem Warriors and Skyrim at around the same time during the start of the holiday season, there's going to be something that someone's going to want to pick up for the Switch, and that's seems to be what Nintendo is going for.
That's true. That is the start of that season, so it could be that, some people might not get, or they might get, let's say, Mario Odyssey, but some, kiddies don't actually get to open it and play it until Christmas or something like that. But personally, this is actually going to be a little tough because I really do want to play Fire Emblem Warriors, but I really have to get Super Mario Odyssey as one of the few games that the missus is interested in playing.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna get all three games.
Yes. Skyrim, it's just so much of it. That's the one that I think is going to probably suffer the most because of this, because that is a game that demands really deep involvement, and you really can't split your time between Skyrim and two other games. I feel like as easily. Like, you could jump between Warriors, play a stage, have fun, and play some levels in Mario Odyssey. But I feel like Skyrim, like, you start playing it, and then before you know it, it's next Thursday.
Right, exactly. I just feel like they're essentially shotgunning the releases for the holiday season just so they can get games out there that would appeal to as wide an audience as possible. There are some non-Nintendo fans who don't care about Fire Emblem, but they want Skyrim on the go, so they'd get a Switch, picking up Skyrim and the requisite Super Mario Odyssey. And vice versa, there are hardcore Nintendo fans that love Fire Emblem, but are gonna pick up Super Mario Odyssey, which is a requisite for the console, essentially. So I think it's fair that they're releasing at around the same time. I'm hoping and optimistic that they won't cannibalize each other.
I feel like they're different enough in genre, though, that it'll minimize that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not too concerned.
Yeah. Lawson Culver asks a very important question, I think. Are in-game places like Splatoon 2 an appropriate place for politics? or should such things remain politics free? It's Ardwolf in the Discord chat, and I think this is actually interesting because, every time I go in Splatoon 2, I do see the little banners, the people draw on the, draw for there, and, a lot of them are making political messages. Some of them are very positive messages, but nonetheless, I personally, you notice on this show at least, we definitely try to keep politics out of our discussion, whatever opinion we might have. I've always felt that it makes it that much harder for people to escape if you're bringing politics into there. And that's kind of a lot of what the games are about. It's getting away and escaping those kind of like real world problems and issues just to enjoy and relax. And I feel like even if you have like a really positive message, when you are bringing those messages and you are like, shoving more politics in people's faces when they're trying to escape that stuff, you're putting them on the defensive in a place where they just kind of want to relax. And now you've kind of maybe turned somebody who might moderately disagree into, now I hate you, and now I'm an enemy, and now we're going to be even more at each other's throats in this political thing because I can't get a breather from you, and you've kind of forced me in this place. So right. I think that just, let people enjoy the fun there, and there's 100 other places to be politic.
Right. That's exactly where I was going to go with this. There are so many channels to express your political beliefs. And I absolutely encourage every single one of you guys, if you're politically active, use the channels available to you to, express your opinions and be open to dialogue and be constructive about that aspect of your life. But there are certain channels like Splatoon 2, like gaming Discord chats, that we really kind of want to steer clear of that subject because that's not what the subject is about. Anyway, next one is from our very best Switch friend, Rin. I'm starting to worry that all the NES or SNES classic things they're doing are Nintendo's attempts to wiggle out of an actual virtual console on the Switch, which would royally suck, especially with their inability/refusal to keep them stocked. What do you guys think?
I don't know if it's their way to weasel out of doing virtual console, but I definitely think they want to get these things into our hands as much as possible before they really roll out virtual console.
Right. There is definitely going to be a dip in interest on these classic consoles if the virtual console itself is released. So maybe they want to run through NES or SNES Classic before. Not that I condone this behavior because I would love virtual console to come out sooner, but it seems likely that they're not using the classics to get out of virtual console, but they're timing the release before the virtual console so that they don't cannibalize each other.
Yeah. So I'm still confident. I don't know how they're going to handle the overlap of games, or if they'll just be like, all right, most of the games that are on the classics won't come out on the virtual console. Or
I feel like it's a way for them to also gauge interest in classic games, but I'm sure Nintendo has plenty of feedback about what they want, what people want about the virtual console, and I feel like it is one of those staggering release dates not for them not to cannibalize each other.
All right, I'll let you say this name before I read the email because I just feel like you're going to have a really good time pronouncing it.
All right, so this next one is from RJ Elguera.
What did you do to foster such an encouraging and friendly community environment? All the other Nintendo communities I check out seem to be so negative and mean-spirited. Yours is the only one I feel comfortable posting in. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
That actually really means a lot to us, RJ. So, thank you so much for the sentiment.
If I had to make my main guess as to why, I think that communities, any kind of group, they will follow the example of the people who lead them or who are at least the most vocal on those groups.
Right.
Now, not every Switch or any kind of community has direct interaction from its patron, its like host. And in those cases, the loudest person becomes the new, whoever the most aggressive or the loudest will tend to be the trendsetter for all the others, since the people who don't want to be loud and obnoxious tend to just be like, all right, I'm not engaging this guy, I'm going to leave. So since JV and I are just we're pretty big addicts for this kind of stuff, and we can't shut up about this stuff. We're always there to, kind of set the example of how we want to have discourse. And basically, JV's always got his radar up for any signs of trolliness. He always messages me because he, like I was saying, he's a well-mannered guy, and he doesn't want to confront people. But luckily, I'm a little more willing to be the guy to go over and say, "Hey, dude, you're trolling. You either stop that or get out."
Right, and keep in mind, we are lurking constantly. I have the Discord chat open almost all the time, so even if I'm not talking in there, I'm definitely keeping an eye on it, and I definitely, absolutely want to give credit to our most prominent members in the community. As soon as people jump in, they're blasted with positivity and welcomeness, and setting that tone right from the beginning really lets the community flourish in a friendly and positive manner. If we're all just trolly and insulting and abrasive towards each other right from the start, people coming in will see that behavior and either leave or contribute to that trolly and abrasive behavior. So it's something that we are really working hard to foster, and I can't thank you guys in the community enough for keeping this up.
Yeah. And thank you to all the people who I had to shame for being trolly, who might not have, it might have just been second nature talking on the internet. Once or twice I had to shame somebody for saying something kind of mean and they realize, oh, I don't do that here. Okay, all right. And they stayed with us, some of them. So thank you for those people who took that brunt, who kind of acted as the example of what will happen here if you're like that.
Yeah, and honestly, I can understand trolly behavior. It's not that we necessarily hate every single troll out there. It's just there are so many other channels for that type of trolliness that this is a channel that we want to make sure is as troll free as possible, and you guys have been rocking it.
On that, I think it's a great note to end tonight's episode on, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot promote our Discord chat enough. Feel free to join us. We're such a great community, and even RJ can attest to just how welcoming and friendly we are. And we also have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/theswitchcast. It's really a great way to help support what we're doing here. We're really trying to push hard to give you guys as much content as possible, and we're even looking into even more avenues to give you content and community events in the future. But if for some reason you guys can't contribute monetarily, the best way to contribute would be to review us on the Apple Podcasts app or wherever you listen, just so that we can spread our community and our podcast. I'm really pushing for you guys to review us as much as possible. That's a really great way to help. And also, if you have the time, feel free to email us, kc@theswitchcast.com or jv@theswitchcast.com for any direct feedback or any word you want to tell us. We check those emails all the time.
We got Twitter @theswitchcast. We got Instagram, instagram.com/theswitchcast. We got a Facebook group. Too long to say that URL, so you'll find the link in the show notes. And we also have a link there to our SwitchCast friends list. Easy way to add a lot of people to your Switch friends, so you have lots of people to play and join in all of our tournaments and stuff. Thank you, HeatleyBros, for the outstanding theme music at the top of our show. And until next time, everybody,
switch it up!